Welcome back to the channel. Glad to see you. I hope all is going well. I'm Romel Private Investigator. My company's Access Diversified Investigations. Now, this is a follow-up to an earlier video associated with what you have to do to become a private investigator in the state of New York. How does this whole thing play itself out? Some very important information. I encourage you to hang in throughout the whole video. And with that having been said, let's get this thing going. Now, for starters, you'll need to determine your business type. Generally, you will be an individual or a sole proprietor, or what's referred to as a sole proprietorship, a corporation, or a limited liability company, and even moreover, perhaps a partnership where a few people get together to perform the same service. As we look at the individual or sole proprietorship, as it's also known, we see that the fee is $400. When we look at the corporation, we see the fee is $500. The limited liability company, the fee is $500, and there are other versions of limited liability companies. And the partnership is $400. That $400 is for each individual partner in the partnership. Now, moving on, in a look at corporations, again, well, I shouldn't say again, actually, the filing that takes place is done with the New York State Department of State Division of Corporations. So we also look at considering a corporation as a possible means of doing business. What we look at is that the corporation is perpetual. The corporation is virtually endless. So in a situation, once again, where a spouse passes away, that corporation, generally done by some means of a corporate change of some sort, and that business, that corporation moves on. So what happens is the corporation entertains a new principal owner of the corporation. What's also helpful with a corporation is you have better protection of your personal property than in the other means of business entities previously mentioned. And by this, what I mean is, let's say you have a corporation, you buy yourself a late model car. You may have used the corporate funds, those funds that you may receive dividend or otherwise, and you've purchased a vehicle. That vehicle does not become liable in any liable situation. The vehicle is personally owned. Now, contrary to that, if in fact you purchased the vehicle for use within the corporation, now you've created a different type of situation, and that asset is subject to any relative liability. Certainly another concern with corporations is double taxation. In a look at limited liability companies, we somewhat see the best of both entities, so to speak, that being the sole proprietor and the corporation. You do have protections in the LLC, the limited protections, but nonetheless you have protections. And in addition to that, so one of the unique features about the LLC is it is a pass-through avoiding double taxation, which is what you have in the corporation. The exception in the, the C corporation, that is. The exception to that would be an S corporation where you have a pass-through as well. So in any event, there's a lot to consider with respect to what type of business you want to conduct your private investigative agency as. And it's always good to speak with an accountant, especially when you're getting started, and the different expenditures associated with your startup capital, and whatever profits you may or may not see, and you don't always see profits right away. Another area of review is associated with child support. So, what you need to know about child support. Now, this is related to the sole proprietors only. So, as a part of the application, there is an area where this information is discussed, and these are the considerations associated with that area. The first is the fact that you have no obligation relative to child support, and that would be a good thing. Not 3 or more than 3 months of arrears. So clearly, if you're in a situation other than that you have maybe 5, 6 arrears, that puts you in a very precarious situation with respect to being licensed. Payments via income execution. If that's your situation, that's something that you would note. Repayment agreements via or by way of the courts. Again, something that you would note. And the particulars associated with the agreement. Repayment agreements by the parties. If in fact there is no court intervention, but it's between you and the child's mother or father, be it the case, then this too comes into being and has to be brought forward. Any court pending proceedings, there could be many of almost any type associated with a child. It's not always directly child support. It could be some other type as well. Receiver of public assistance, that needs to be noted. And last but not least, well, certainly last, receiver of supplemental security income. So this is information that you do have to provide in your application process. Now I'll speak in brief about qualifying and non-qualifying principles. And as you see, there's a notation of 10% or more stock interest related to corporations and LLCs. So basically what this means is a qualifying principle is someone who's actually received a private investigator's license, has met the minimum qualifications to have the license. The non-qualifying person is someone who has not or is not licensed. Now, in a corporation, if that particular person has 10% or more interest, they can actually be within the corporation. However, they are not licensed. So this is an example of, you often hear people talking about someone working under someone's license. This is an example of that. The difference being that they are an actual principal. In some cases, you may have directors, secretaries, so forth and so on, and these persons may be actually paid individuals. So that's something you need to take in consideration if you're going to do a corporation or LLC with one or more persons. They would have a better understanding of where they are in that overall process. The surety bond is a $10,000 surety bond. Those bonds can usually be, you can usually get those bonds for anywhere, I'd say anywhere between, anything better than about $75 or so. The surety bonds are for the life of the for the life of the private investigative agency. And here's how they work. Basically, they are to cover any violations or liabilities you may incur from the Department of State associated with your practices as a private investigator or private investigative agency. And when those payments are made, generally the option is the security bond company will either make the payment and come after you for the amount that they've distributed, or you have the ability or the capability to make the payment yourself to keep your bond active. Once the bond is no longer active, neither is your business. So one of the things, every time you renew your license, you have to have your security bond intact and in place for the period of your license. Just in case you haven't seen the first video, click right about there. There's some very vital and important information to assist you in your journey in being and or beginning to be a private investigator. And as I like to say, dream with purpose, act with intent. Click the subscribe button and notification bell for more informative videos.